December 18, 2022. Messi lifts the World Cup. Fireworks light up the Qatari sky. The world watches in awe. And then, everyone goes home. Qatar spent over $200 billion transforming a desert nation for 1 month of football. 8 brand new stadiums, built from scratch, for a country of just 3 million people. So what happened to them after the party ended?
Welcome to Sports Simplified. Biggest stories in sport, broken down fast. Let's get into it. Lusail Stadium, 88,000 seats, the biggest, most expensive venue of the entire tournament. This is where Messi had his moment, where Argentina and France played out arguably the greatest World Cup final in history. And today, mostly silent. Qatar's plan was to gut the upper tiers and turn it into a community hub. Shops, schools, apartments, a health clinic, a city inside a stadium. Sounds brilliant, but years later, that transformation is still incomplete. The stadium sits there, occasionally used for concerts and big matches, but nowhere near what was promised. A venue that held 88,000 people, being used a handful of times a year? That's a problem.
Then there's Al Bayt Stadium, the one shaped like a giant Bedouin tent. Stunning to look at, but here's the issue nobody talks about enough. It's located 35 kilometers outside Doha, in a city called Al Khor. And in Qatar, that distance matters, because the football audience simply isn't big enough to travel that far every weekend. The upper tiers were removed after the World Cup. Plans exist for a hotel, a shopping center, a sports hospital around it, but right now, it's one of the hardest venues in Qatar to fill. Of all 8 stadiums, Al Bayt is the one closest to becoming what Qatar promised it would never be, a white elephant.
Now for the most fascinating story of them all. Stadium 974. Built from 974 recycled shipping containers? Yes, the same number as Qatar's international dialing code. This was supposed to be the most revolutionary stadium in World Cup history. The whole concept was genius. Build it, use it, then take it apart piece by piece and ship it to a developing country that actually needs a stadium. Zero waste, pure legacy. The world loved the idea. But here's what actually happened. Nothing. The tournament ended, and Stadium 974 just stood there, unused, branding still on the walls. No dismantling, no shipping, no plan in action. Then in December 2024, it quietly came back to life, hosting the Intercontinental Cup, right where it always stood. The world's first reusable stadium still hasn't been reused. Whether it ever gets dismantled and sent somewhere that truly needs it, that question is still unanswered.
And then there's Khalifa International Stadium, the quiet success story nobody talks about. Here's the thing. Khalifa wasn't built for the World Cup. It was built in 1976. Qatar just renovated it. And because it already had a purpose before the tournament, it still has one after. Home of the national team, regular Qatar Stars League matches, athletics events, international fixtures. No conversion needed, no uncertainty. Khalifa just works. And that's the lesson. The stadiums that already had a reason to exist before 2022 are the ones still standing strong after it.
But here's what you really need to understand. Qatar never actually expected all these stadiums to stay full, because the World Cup was never just about football. It was about introducing Qatar to the world. For decades, this was just a small Gulf state, rich in gas. By hosting the biggest sporting event on Earth, Qatar bought itself a seat at the global table. Critics called it sports washing, using sport to distract from human rights concerns and labor controversies. And those criticisms were real. They shouldn't be ignored. But billions of people watched. Tourism surged. Qatar Airways grew. The Doha Metro, built for the World Cup, still runs every single day. Qatar was playing a much longer game than just 64 matches of football, and by that measure, the World Cup worked, even if some of the stadiums didn't.
So what happened to Qatar's World Cup stadiums? Some are thriving, some are struggling. One is still a complete mystery. But the real legacy of Qatar 2022 was never the concrete and the steel. It was the moment the world looked at a tiny desert nation and couldn't look away. If this video hit different, drop a comment. Which stadium do you think will still matter in 20 years? Subscribe to Sports Simplified for more. I'll see you in the next one.